On today's episode of The Unwritten Rule, we just got Payton and I today. Kenny is fulfilling his duties as an extra on the Today Show. So he's in New York doing that. Don't worry, we'll still have all his quick hits for him. We'll fill in all those. And before that, of course, we got some football stuff to talk about, more housekeeping stuff. Only one award to talk about, thank God. And then a bunch of transfer and recruiting news, because that's obviously heating up. We're hoping we might even get some breaking news while we're recording. We did the show a little late. We had some travels on Sunday, so recording Monday afternoon, and we're hoping that possibly some news could interrupt certain parts of the show. But we're going to talk about all that. We got some Cayden Green stuff, and then we're also going to recap Mizzou men's basketball against Seton Hall in Kansas City. The Tigers losing that one. Plenty to dive into there as well. With what we're thinking going forward for Mizzou men's hoops. And then, like I said, we'll do quick hits. We are filling Ken's sports shorts. It'll be Payton's sports shorts this week. And then we got best beats, dirty birds, our fraud rankings, and then ratio. So great show for you guys. Before we get into it, quick word from our friends at Bet Online. All the major sports are in action this week. College football playoffs getting ready to kick off here on New Year's Day. And Bet Online is your number one destination for all your sports wagering info, including news for pro football, the NBA, upcoming fights, and NHL games this season. We'll have our best beats of the week segment. Thank you to Bet Online for giving us those lines. So head to Bet Online today to get in on the action and see all the updated odds for the week. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Believe to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet Online, where the game starts and the unwritten rule starts right now.
Marcel, where are you going with that disc? You are not putting that on again. Marcel, okay, if you press that button, you are in very, very big trouble.
Attention. Everybody stop what you're doing. It's time for The Unwritten Rule, a Mizzou sports podcast brought to you by the Believe Network, alongside Payton Haverman and Kenny Van Doren. Here is your host, Jack Knowlton.
Welcome back to The Unwritten Rule. Today is Monday, December 18th. And before we dive into everything, subscribe to the YouTube if you're watching on the YouTube. I keep meaning to say that in the intro, and I always forget. Subscribe to the YouTube. We drop this podcast twice a week, and we appreciate all the gracious viewers. So subscribe, hit that bell, whatever the generic YouTubers, whatever Mr. Beast says, do that.
Make sure to turn the notifications on. 98% of you aren't
are not
subscribed.
subscribed. No, but yeah, seriously, go subscribe to the YouTube. We appreciate it. Yeah, what's the Watch Mojo thing? They're like, if you're on your phone, make sure to go on your settings and say allow notifications. They always have a good little graphic. Maybe
I haven't watched a Watch Mojo video in ages.
They had some bangers. Shout out Watch Mojo. But yeah, please subscribe. And anyway, yeah, today's Monday, December 18th, and we've got a lot to dive into, Payton. Let's do transfers in just a second. Let's knock out the one award. Thankfully, we only have one award we can touch on from this past week, and it's not even an award. It's an award semifinalist for Eli Drinkwitz. He is on the Bear Bryant Award finalist list. He is a Bear Bryant Award finalist. That award gets announced on January 10th. So it's one of those Coach of the Year awards. Obviously, he's already racked up SEC Coach of the Year. He's had a few honors along with a bunch of Mizzou players, but we'll see if he can take this home. But another honor for Drink.
Yeah, not sure he'll come away with this one, just because there's been so many great coaching jobs around the country, but he earned it. I mean, thankfully, this is like the last award we have to talk about for a while, but no, I would hope Drinkwitz at least gets a few votes for it. I'm not sure he'll win, but we'll see.
Who would you give it to if not Drink? Who's he up against?
I'm
put you on the spot.
I haven't actually seen all the semifinalists, but I do know who I would vote for. My vote would, I have two names I would vote for. My votes would either go to Jerry Kill at New Mexico State, because they just won 10 games this year. They lost their bowl game over the weekend to Fresno State. That would have given them 11. They were in the Conference USA. Finally back in a conference was New Mexico State, and they were in the conference title game. They played good game against Liberty, who's the group of 5 representative in New Year's Six. When you consider that before Jerry Kill had gotten there, New Mexico State had been to 1 bowl game in 60 years, and he has now taken them to 2 bowl games in 2 years. I don't think there's been a better turnaround in the country. I don't know if he'll win it, but just because he kind of laid a foundation last year. Other person I would consider voting for, David Braun up at Northwestern. That program, everything considered, he inherited an absolute mess. He inherited a 1-win team that was rocked by like a bad scandal. He just kind of got shoved into it. He played his team played him off the interim tag. He's now the full-time head coach. They won 7 games. They got a decent bowl game. They got the Las Vegas Bowl against Utah. Nice matchup for them. Great turnaround there. I would probably give him my vote.
Jerry Kill, not on the list.
That's disappointing. I do think he could get more recognition.
David Braun is, so just for the people drinker going against. So he's going against David Braun, Jeremy Chadwell from Liberty, Kalen DeBoer from Washington, Drinkwitz, Rhett Lachey from SMU, Mike Norvell, Florida State, or Lachey. What did I say? Lachey? I can't read. Mike Norvell from Florida State, Saban from Bama, and Sark from Texas.
It would be really awkward if Saban won it over Norvell.
Giving Saban the Bear Bryant Award seems a little biased, don't you think?
It's a little on the nose. He won't win it.
Yeah.
He won't.
Probably not. But yeah, those are the guys going against Drinkwitz. So January 10th, that gets announced. We'll revisit that, I'm sure, if he wins. Next, let's do some recruiting first, and then we'll get into a couple of these transfers. Actually, you know what? Should we start with Cayden Green? I feel like that's the biggest news, even though he's not even a Missouri Tiger. We don't know where he's going, but he's in the portal from Oklahoma. Of course, he was a standout freshman. I think started 7 games as a true freshman on the O-line. The Oklahoma guy entered the portal, shocked everyone, especially Parker Toon, and is in the portal and is visiting Mizzou, Payton.
He already visited.
How big of a – or yeah, he was on his visit, over the weekend.
Yeah.
How big of a get would this be? I mean, and also just, I don't think we talked about this last week. So your reaction, I want your reaction too, of like when you saw that he was in the portal. Obviously he's a Lee Summit guy. It's a huge potential and already took a visit.
Yeah, that was a pretty massive jaw dropper for me. I could not believe Cayden Green after getting to Oklahoma, first of all. And that was, Mizzou obviously pursued him heavily out of high school. They were in his top 3, but he ultimately wound up going to Oklahoma. I'm not really sure anybody was going to beat out Oklahoma for him. But I mean, he started 7 games there. He started at guard, not tackle, which I do think was kind of a hang up for him. Could have been. This is just based off what I've read, what I've seen. I have no sources on the matter, but he didn't play tackle. He played guard. Nobody really expected this. It just kind of sounds like he just up and left. He visited Oregon first. He visited them on the 15th and 16th. He made his way to Mizzou over to Mizzou on the 17th before the dead period that's now in effect. So they got that in. If you're Mizzou, you probably have to feel pretty good about where you're at. I don't know if Cayden Green was tampered in or not. I've seen some people suggesting both ways that it could have been either, but this would be big time for Mizzou to pull in Cayden Green, especially he started 7 games as a true freshman at Oklahoma. I believe, if I remember reading this correctly, he was the first ever game day captain as a true freshman in Oklahoma.
I saw that. I saw that as well.
So teammates clearly loved him. Coaches probably loved him as well. It's really big shocker he was even in the portal. Oregon and Mizzou have been about the only ones linked to him. They were the only ones that got visits before the dead period. Some people did suggest Colorado early on because of an O-line coach that went there, but nothing ever really picked up steam there. There's no buzz around it. If you're Mizzou, gotta be. We've seen the Drink tweets. We've seen the Gabe DeArmond tweets today. There's a good amount of buzz around it. I'm sure Mizzou feels pretty good. Um, we'll have to wait and see, but that would be a huge get. I would expect him to they'd at least try him out at left tackle, because you're losing Javon Foster. You really need someone to be a lockdown left tackle there. I doubt they want to move Armand Membu from where he's been so dominant at right tackle. Um, Boy, if that hits, I'll tell you what, Armand Membu and Cayden Green, that tackle duo, that'd be a nasty sight to behold.
Yes. Yeah. I think you put it perfectly. The Leaf Summit pipeline is shifting back to Mizzou from Oklahoma. Hopefully. But yeah, he's already on his visit. He's gotten the love of the Mizzou fans. Obviously, people I think really understand the excitement. This was, like you said, a shock for Oklahoma fans for sure. I love that, we're now trying to make bring tampering to the levels of the NBA in college football, when tampering happens literally all the time with every team, especially in the era of the transfer portal. So that was making me laugh. But yeah, this is a really good player. I saw the game day captain thing as well. If you want some stats for him, for Oklahoma, obviously take into account he only started 7 games. He got a 71% pass block grade and a 49% run block grade by PFF last season. So again, take those with a grain of salt, but having that pass block grade even and just being put on the field for those 7 games, from what I understand, is really phenomenal.
So you're saying he had a 71
pass block grade?
Okay. Yeah. I thought you were saying percent, and I was like, does that win percent?
Oh no, sorry. Grade. I forgot. It's not percentage.
So 71 pass block, 49
run block. Yes. It's actually closer to 50 if you want to round up. But again, starting 7 games, I don't think you can overstate how huge that would be in terms of a pickup for Mizzou. So we'll keep an eye. Again, we're hoping. Again, we don't have any leads. We don't have any sources. We're going just like every Mizzou fan is off of the Gabe teaser tweets that we've been getting all Monday. But we're hoping that maybe we'll have some breaking news come across our desk.
Here my phone every notification.
Yeah, as we roll on. This is fun. This is the season. This is the season we're in. Before the bowl game, this is what we'll be doing after the bowl game. Just waiting for some of these players to come down the pipeline. So let's continue. Let's talk about a couple of those guys. We'll do recruiting, and then we have a few more transfer portal notes as well. The other big story from the past week: Kewan Lacy, the running back from Lancaster, Texas, picking Mizzou in pretty dramatic fashion. He did the bag fake out. He brought the bag out as commitment, took a couple hats out, threw him aside, had the big Mizzou flag. But Payton, I mean, a really good running back. You said Mizzou's really high on this kid, 4-star, and really picked the Tigers, or the Tigers kind of came out of nowhere in the final hours to snag this commitment.
I wouldn't say out of nowhere. It did seem like a 2-horse race for a while. He looked like an Alabama lock for a good amount of time. Then I believe a week or 2 ago, Ole Miss, who I don't know if anyone's noticed, is getting everyone and their mother out of the portal. They are getting they are killing the portal. They are the clear winners of that. They've been throwing bags at everyone, and good for them. They can do that. They looked like they were going to get Kewan Lacy here up until about so he was supposed to commit at 6. At about, I don't know, a few hours earlier, Steve Wiltfong from 247 was tweeting like, right now the crystal ball favors Ole Miss, but Mizzou is trying to battle back. Still didn't look like Mizzou was going to flip them until about 5:45, when some crystal balls started finally pouring in from Mizzou. Literally 15 minutes before his commitment, Mizzou got it done. Coach Looper, Mizzou's running back coach, was going nuts on Twitter. He was pumped up. At the 11th hour, the 11th hour doesn't even do it justice. It's about the 11th hour and 59th minute. They were able to get this done. Kewan Lacy is a massive, massive get. You pair him with Marcus Carroll. Just based off what people have been saying about him, I'd be surprised if we don't see a good amount of him his freshman year.
Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. He looks like he's gonna be able to step in right away. And we've seen Mizzou give that chance to true freshmen. I know that's what Kenny always says. That's part of the promise with these recruits is you can play right away. Certainly, I'm sure Cody Schrader's season, coming from JUCO and doing what he did probably helped certainly in Lacy making that decision. I mean, Lacy's in a much better spot coming out of high school than Schrader was. So, the fact that he can come in and absolutely ball right away alongside Carroll, like you said, I think is really exciting. But yeah, so the Lancaster, Texas 4-star running back, he's a Tiger. And then we did get the benefit, Payton, of waiting till today to record as opposed to doing it last night because we can report this news. Caleb Pyfrom, the 3-star offensive tackle out of Omaha, Nebraska, he also committed to Mizzou just today around 10 a.m. on Monday morning. What info do you got on him? Another decent get for the Tigers, some O-line depth.
Yeah, this was an interesting recruitment. He was at first committed to Illinois, decommitted a while ago, like a few months ago. Then at one point it looked like Mizzou was the heavy favorite. Then it seemed like they kind of cooled off. We didn't hear a lot about his recruitment. But then I think he took a visit very recently, and Mizzou just kind of sealed the deal from there. Good get for Mizzou. We always love it's not exactly flip miss because he had decommitted, but if he's a Power 5 guy, he had a good amount of offers from everywhere. Probably someone we're not going to see for a couple of years, I would imagine. But you always want to just keep restocking the O-line depth.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number 3 player in the state of Nebraska. Like you said, he decommitted from Illinois back in October, visited Mizzou on the 15th, and then committed on the 18th.
So just this weekend.
Yeah, so just this past weekend, he was back. So like you said, that interest kind of resurfaced because he took an unofficial on the 7th, on October 7th, the day before he decommitted from Illinois. So, you're right on the timeline there. But yeah, I mean, offers from Illinois, Iowa State, Kansas, like those are good Power 5 schools. Nice to, kind of steal a player away from Illinois and maybe even Kansas if they were throwing offers out there. But yeah, a good get him, stash him, develop him, see what kind of player he can turn into in the long term. So yeah, Pyfrom's there, got Lacy, Cayden Green's on a visit, and then only other quick note for transfers, Aeneas Peebles, the Duke defensive lineman, he opted for Virginia Tech. He was linked to Mizzou. One of many players who've took a visit. One of many players who, has Mizzou on their offer sheet, but Peebles opting for Virginia Tech. Payton, before we segue to basketball, who are some other guys, for Mizzou to keep an eye on here? Maybe even in the next hours, weeks, days, however long it might be, in the transfer portal. Obviously, like I swear I log on to Twitter and just see even big offer sheets for recruits and transfers, and Mizzou's on almost all of them. So who are some guys maybe that could heat up in the next couple of days here?
Yeah, Mizzou's had a lot of guys visit. I'd keep an eye on Chris McClellan, the Florida defensive tackle. He, I believe, was, if I saw this correctly, I believe he was the one whose house Drinkwitz was in when he was on that ESPN interview doing the schedule. Mizzou's had, just edge rushers galore. Darius Smith from Georgia is one to keep an eye on. There was an Auburn guy who said he believes Mizzou is now the heavy favorite for Darius Smith. Not a transfer, but Courtney Crutchfield commits tomorrow, and it is very heavily expected that he will be a Missouri Tiger. Jamarian Burnett could be committing soon. Another guy Mizzou is keeping an eye on. There's a lot of guys right now, and obviously it's a dead period now. So it could take a little time for some of this news to trickle out, but we'll see. I'm sure we'll get some more news after we're done recording.
Yeah, that's always how it'll go. We'll hop off in a minute later. Something will happen. But yeah, we'll keep everyone updated on all the recruiting stuff. Obviously, it's a lot of names to just keep track of, but exciting that Mizzou is linked to so many guys. Let's segue now, Payton. We talked about the good with football. We got to dive into some of the ugly, a little bit of bad for men's basketball. Mizzou losing on Sunday afternoon in Kansas City, 93-87 to the Pirates of Seton Hall. A game coming in that I think we and other people across Mizzou circles, I was listening to some other stuff, seemed pretty confident on. Seton Hall's not a very good team. Did not have a Power 5, a win over a Power 5 team heading into this game in Kansas City, but marched in there, hit a bunch of threes. I have some stats on that. But I watched the highlights, Payton. I was driving back from Nebraska yesterday, so I couldn't catch the full game, but I'm getting a pretty good sense from what I'm seeing from some of the stuff you said. I know you did. What were your takeaways with, I think, what's ended up being a pretty surprising and disappointing loss? This felt like a game Mizzou kind of needed to have.
Yeah, coming off the Kansas loss where they played such great defense, I kind of expected it like, okay, they can make this carry over, get a win against Seton Hall. Maybe they can have a chance against Illinois. That gets your season really back on the map. But now, I mean, it just kind of seems like it is what it is. This is going to be a true gap year for Dennis Gates and company. It's just not a very good team right now, and I just don't know if there's a combo that's really going to give you consistent results every night in here. I mean, this Seton Hall team, I mean, they harped on it on the broadcast. They were a really bad three-point shooting team coming into this game. They were last in the Big East. And I think Drew King put it best in his article. I mean, Mizzou kind of just felt like they played defense, just thinking, okay, they're not going to hit their shots anyway, so we can leave them kind of unguarded. But boy, oh boy, some of the looks they were giving Seton Hall were just unbelievable, too open. I mean, they just can't find shooters on the wing right now. It's so bad. Mizzou kind of had to pivot to a lot of secondary targets in the portal, and it kind of feels like that. I mean, I know Carolero had a better game than what we've seen from him for a lot of times, but he just hasn't been much. Vanover's just been up and down. When he's just in the paint, being that kind of 7'5" guy that's going to be a shot blocker, he's been good. I don't know, man. Like, Mizzou wasn't even getting killed on the boards yesterday is the crazy part. I mean, they only lost by 2 on the boards. They lost 31-29. They also were out rebounding Seton Hall at halftime, but I mean, they just let a bad shooting team get way too many open looks and they caught fire. That's just what's going to happen. Bad shooting team or not, you let a couple go in. Shooting is contagious. I 100% believe that. Like, it's going to spread. And Mizzou just played a horrible game. They once again lost the opening 4 minutes of the second half. They really lost the opening 12 minutes of the second half. They tried to make a miracle run at it again, but it's not a good thing to do. And Tamar Bates said, like, we need to just tip off every game like we're down 20 because that we seem to have a good mentality when that happens. And I agree with that, but they really should stop letting themselves go down 20. I mean, Tamar Bates played well. He's been the best transfer, I think, by a landslide. Really excited to see what he can be. The things that really are just hurting you. I mean, it took a while for Sean East to get going, and when Sean East is not going, I mean, Tamar Bates was keeping them alive for a while, but when Sean East is not getting good looks at the bucket, this team struggles really bad. I mean, Nick Honor has been an up and down shooter. He'll catch fire for a good stretch, but a lot of the times he's just chucking up early in the shot clock threes, and it doesn't go in. Noah Carter, man, I don't even know what the heck that was. 1 for 12 from the floor. He's got issues right now. He's in a funk. I just don't think you can really expect a lot out of this year. I don't even really care if they make an NIT or not. They could not. The tournament seems kind of just out of the question at this point. You'd have to win at the bragging rights game this week, and you'd have to do really well for yourself in conference play. Just kind of looking forward at this point. I mean, Dennis hasn't really gotten all of his own guys in there. It's going to take some time.
Yeah. You look at the stats. This feels like a game that, would have happened to the Mizzou team last year, that they would have won 102-93. And you would have had some questions about their defense, but they would have forced enough turnovers. They would have scored enough, and they would have hit more shots. And frankly, it probably wouldn't have even been that close because they would have hit shots earlier in the game. Yeah, one thing I can say about this squad is you never really can count them out, can you? I mean, being down 19 with 11 minutes to go, and they claw their way back into it. So that Bates quote kind of sums it up perfectly. They just need to come out swinging. This team really struggles when Sean East does not start a game really well, and it's not fair to put that all on Sean East. He's been great this season, but you have to have guys that make up for his efforts. Some of the good, a couple things that you mentioned, I really like Tamar Bates. I think that's going to end up working out well for them. I think if he can continue to come into his own, have a good, productive SEC, he's going to come in next year and be one of this team's best players. Trent Pierce, 8 points, 3 for 3 from the field. He was one of only 3 players with a positive box plus minus. It's still just weird to me that you don't see him all game, and then you see him out there in crunch time with 5 minutes left. He made plays, don't get me wrong, but there's still some lineup questions. I think I don't know if Dennis really knows what he has in his rotation, what he wants in his rotation. It's just still feels so random to me when he subs. Yeah.
I mean, you played 13 players again, man. We're at the point you can't be doing that. I mean, cut Mabor Mayak is giving you nothing. I'm sorry to Mabor Mayak. Gotta cut out his minutes.
I mean, he did give you nothing. He did not have a stat in 3 minutes on the floor.
I mean, he put Mayak out there with Aidan Shaw. I like Aidan Shaw a lot, but right now he does not have much of an offensive game. It'll get there, I'm sure. Right now, Aidan Shaw operates best as like an athletic defender who can block a couple shots, grab a couple rebounds when he's on. When Aidan Shaw was on the floor, a lot of the time Mizzou was playing a bit better. That end of the game stretch in particular sticks out to me, but you cannot have Mayak and Aidan Shaw on the floor at the same time. That's basically 3-on-5 on offense. That's just not a thing that's going to work for you.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you mentioned the closeouts are just, it's really a really bad sign when a team that shoots is bad. I'm going to read you these stats quick, and then I'll say this. You mentioned the Seton Hall. They were last in the Big East in 3-point shooting coming into this game. Here are their stats against Power 5 teams shooting from 3. Against USC, 3 for 16, 18%. Iowa, 8 for 27, 29%. Baylor, 4 for 13, 30%. Rutgers, 3 for 20, 15%. And then Mizzou, 10 for 23, 43.5%. That's not good. That, I think, says a lot more about your defense than, Seton Hall just got hot. A team is going to hit a couple shots. They're a Power 5 team. I think they even had a quote from Sheehan Holloway, their coach, that says, we feel that this team is better at shooting from deep than they've shown, which when I heard that in the first half, I thought, oh my God, that's such a terrible omen for how the game ended up playing out. But yeah, I mean, the closeouts are slow. Vanover is such a conundrum to me because I agree. I do really like him in the paint. Offensively, I think he adds a lot to opening up the floor for Sean East with screens, being a roller, being a dunker. I think he's really helpful there. But on defense, when he's just sitting out the paint, he can't and they get a late rotation. He can't close out on a guy shooting a corner 3. He's not going to get there in time. And I don't know if,
No, go ahead.
Oh, I don't know if you need him to do they did this on, this is kind of a deep cut, but they need him to do the Luke Cornett thing. Luke Cornett is a backup center for the Celtics, and they literally tell him to just jump up in the air and stick his hands up so that the shooter can't see the rim when they're taking a 3. You got to have Vanover start doing that to have him be a plus defender in that regard. But yeah, it's a lot of frustrating things because there's good there, a lot of it, but the bad is outweighing that right now. I'll let you get your point in.
It almost feels like, and even though we've seen him struggle with it sometimes, you almost have to have Aidan Shaw out there with Connor Vanover because you need that athleticism. Yeah, just to be able to make those switches and stuff. The whole thing, Mizzou has had flashes where the defense just looks a lot better, than it did last year. But then you have a game like this, and he just throws it all. I don't like everything about the defense under Gates just feels like it needs to be changed. I don't know really like what is the defense they run? Is it like a like do you know? I know you covered the team.
I mean,
Because it just doesn't make any
they
sense to me.
switch. I mean, they're in man. They switch to
switch, yeah,
zone
a lot.
sometimes, but I don't. But they don't. It doesn't seem they communicate very well with each other to switch when teams set screens. And the closeouts are just like that's not even a defensive thing. That's just a mentality thing. You got to get out to a shooter and put a hand in his face. I mean, they're very late. Teams are good at picking them apart and finding mismatches. Like Noah Carter got bodied a couple times where a guy just takes it right into his chest and scores.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean, no, you're good. And I mean, it just the only person I saw like really consistently close out was again Tamar Bates, who just seems to be doing about everything right now, but not many others are. And yeah, that's like you said, Noah Carter. We know the defense is just it is what it is. I mean, he's not going to be a very good defender in most cases, but if he can drop some good shooting nights, I mean, it mitigates it. But when he goes 1 for 12, it just compounds the problem. It just feels like at this point, you need to really just see what your freshmen can do. I would give them a lot more run going forward. If Pierce can have more nights like that, I mean, he did have 4 fouls. I think that's important to note. But I mean, if he can have more nights like that, I mean, he also had a steal and a block. Like, that's really good. I would give Aidan Shaw a lot more. Just let him run more. Let Jordan Butler play more. Let Ant Robinson play more. I don't need to see any more of John Tonje. I don't need to see any more of Kurt Lewis. I don't need to see any more Carolero, even though it wasn't really his fault yesterday. It just feels like we're wasting time when they're on the floor. I mean, you had that stat. Sanjay was out there 8 minutes after just being invisible the last few games because he just wasn't out there. It was a minus 16. Like,
yep. I don't know how you can be that bad in that short of a span on the floor.
I don't know what's
negative.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. I know he had the foot injury or whatever it was at the beginning of the year. It just isn't working.
Yeah, I'll go back to Vanover with that too. Like I sure wish he was available those first 4 games because I think we're starting to see what Dennis is seeing in him, and I'm hopeful that he's going to be pretty productive in SEC play. But I wish he had those 4 games back because I think he'd be in a lot better of a place in this rotation. I think he'll get there. He's not one I'm as worried about, but I have a couple things, looking ahead, and I think that's just what we kind of like to do, maybe want to do at this point. I really love the idea of Aidan Shaw even next season being a guy who gets you 6 points on like 3 shots, 10 or 11 or even 12 rebounds, and like 2 blocks a game, and just switches everywhere, just hounds guys defensively, and is just a dunker. Like, I don't know. I think that could really be a real role for him. It feels like with his explosiveness, he could have maybe more offensive potential than that, but he doesn't really have a bag right now.
Yeah,
he's not a very good shooter.
Moves.
So I think you just embrace it. I think you just go all in on that. Hey, dude, use your length, switch him 1 through damn near 5, and just let him, he's got to learn to defend a little bit without fouling, but like, just embrace that role. Yeah.
Yeah, he's so athletic. I mean, you can tell what the ceiling is with him. It's sky high. I mean, if he could just, maybe get in the gym, get a couple moves in his offensive tool bag. I mean, maybe just get a little bit of a jumper. That way, if you're wide open on the wing, you just can consistently hit that. Maybe 33% of the time. That goes a long way, I think. But I agree with you 100%. The flash is especially on the perimeter on defense. I mean, he is ferocious out there at times. I mean, he can jump so high. I mean, he can block so many shots. He can get there. I just don't think he's quite there yet. Keep starting it is what I'd say.
Yeah, and then the other two I'm just excited is I think Bates, like, you can tell he's locked in and dialed into playing for Gates. He has so much energy. I love how vocal he is. I love how, like, he just seems to galvanize the team when he's out on the court. Like, he's clapping after every bucket. He's hyping guys up. Those are just intangibles I like. And then as a scorer, I think Dennis Gates should sit Tamar Bates in front of a television and show him DeAndre Golston film and say, you can do this on top of having probably a better ability from outside, from shooting
Way better.
threes.
Yeah.
So if you can mold him into that, just like a 3-level scorer with his length, I think that's really exciting. And then Anthony Robinson, I mean, we've touched on it. I think he's going to be an awesome 2-way point guard. Those are the three, I think, when you're talking building blocks, I really like.
Ant Robinson had a really nice, ball. Callum McAndrew.
The pump fake three?
Yeah, the pump fake three. That was beautiful. I mean, the way Callum McAndrew put it, he was like, he did the whole tennis, when I fake throw the tennis ball for my dog. That's what he did yesterday for free. It was beautiful. I love Ant. I think he'll be fantastic. He really screams all SEC guard to me at some point. I really do see that in him. Tamar Bates, it is interesting because I do see what you're saying. He's confident now. And that was apparently the problem for him at Indiana. He didn't have a lot of confidence in himself, so I think that's a big coaching win for Gates. He's really gotten Tamar Bates to be confident in his shot. He's a great 3-point shooter. I think he needs to be a little more secure with the ball when he's dribbling into the paint because he has lost it just a couple times. But like you said, put him in front of some DeAndre Golston film, let him see if he can maybe get a few more moves in his bag. And I agree with you. I think he can be really, really good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential here, and it's not to take away from maybe what this team can still do, and we don't have to dive into this too much. I do think Missouri, I was talking about this to somebody, and Missouri's going to benefit from the SEC not being as strong as I think we thought it was going to be, coming into the year. So there's still a lot this team can get out. They're a very experienced group. I mean, they have the ability to make epic comebacks. We saw it live, but I mean, it's right. It's gotta be all 40 minutes, and it just has not been this season yet. And you're going to have it against Illinois. Otherwise it's going to be a boat race for the Fighting Illini. And if they can hang around and do what they did against Kansas against Illinois, they can beat that team. Illinois is a good team. They're not as good as Kansas is.
No. And there will be improvements. I mean, Noah Carter's not going to go 1 for 12 every night.
No.
And there's bits and pieces you see with a lot of players on this team, with the exception of 3 or 4, where you're like, there is a good player in there.
Just do that all the time.
Yeah, you see, there are stretches where Aidan Shaw just looks like an NBA level player, and then but he just doesn't have much of an offensive game right now. He just needs more time to be molded. You see it with Pierce Butler and Ant in flashes. They have their freshman moments. Ant less than the other two, but there is potential in all 3 of them, I think. But like you said, I mean, there hasn't been a complete 40-minute effort yet. This team is so prone to 4 to 8-minute stretches where they just get played off the floor. And maybe they play better than the team the rest of the game, but it's not enough to overtake those 4 or 8 bad minutes. And like you said, they're going to need to do that against Illinois. Illinois is a game that has really defined the season of over the last few years. In 2020, our sophomore year, that team, they beat Illinois. That's when they felt legit, and they rose up to the number 10, as high as number 10 in the nation. Obviously, it didn't work out at the end, but they were up there. And last year, I mean, I've never seen a more pathetic team than Illinois against Missouri last year. I mean, Missouri was just bullying. It was not nice what they did to Illinois last year. And that really catapulted them.
The game has been a galvanizer for Mizzou teams in the past. So you're going to have to treat it like one here this Saturday. Payton, this is the last thing, and I don't think you're going to like this because of the man I'm about to bring up, but I cover him now a little bit, so this popped into my head. Dennis Gates could find himself in a very similar first couple seasons at Mizzou to what Nate Oates did at Alabama. Nate Oates in his first season at Alabama went 16-15. They finished 9th. Following year, 26-7. They finished 1st. Year after that, 19-14, finished 5th. Year after that, 31-6, finished 1st. They're number 1 seed in the tournament. It's just kind of how it works now, where you lose so many guys, you have to replace it. It doesn't always work out, and so I kind of just wanted to say that to draw back to you. I'm not hitting the panic button on Dennis Gates at all. I think it's just, like you said, it's a down year. The transfers didn't really work out, but he's doing things where the following season he can take this team to the heights we saw last year and maybe even higher. Because an SEC coach has done that, I guess, is my comparison there.
I wouldn't really draw that comparison just because I think Nate Oates recruits differently than Dennis Gates does. The way Dennis Gates recruits, I mean, he likes to hit those. I mean, he got like Honor Boateng and he got Aaron Rowe. Both guys are like elite level prospects who you'd hope can maybe be 1 or 2 years and off to the league. But maybe that's not necessarily realistic, but it is kind of a hope you would have with a top 25 recruit. I would say, I mean, I knew coming into this year, I'm pretty sure I said on the show, I think this will be the least talented team Dennis has, and I think that's proving to be true. It is what it is. I mean, look, if we had flipped year 1, year 2, it was Dennis Gates rebuilt this whole thing backwards, okay? That's his own fault in that respect. He wound us up last year making Kobe Brown the first-round pick, getting another NBA player in Demoy Hodge in there. And I mean, they weren't supposed to do that last year. I think it's very fair to say they were not supposed to be a top 25 team at the end of the year, be 25-10 at the end of the year, and win Mizzou's first tournament game in a decade last year. This year, they were naturally going to take a step back. But I mean, let's think about what the perception would maybe be if this was year 1 and last year was year 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it would have been, I think we'd all feel pretty good about this year if it was year 1. I don't think it would be that bad. Overall, I think Dennis is building a more sustainable way than just kind of bouncing up and down like Nate Oates does, because he's really recruiting that like 120, like the 50 to 150 range of recruits, like the top 50 to top 150 range of recruits. Guys that aren't necessarily going to leave after just 1 year. They'll be there for a good amount of time. Really helps you just build. I'm still very confident in Dennis Gates. I still think Mizzou in a couple of years is going to be competing for an SEC title in basketball. This year just kind of stinks, and it is what it is.
All right, yeah. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because I think the more I think about it, you're right. It's more of a sustainable model, and I think you should double down on that point with the recruits they're getting. Aaron Rowe is awesome, but he might not be a one and done kid. And these guys, like, we're seeing the 3-4 stars this year. None of them are going to the league after this season. I mean, they're all going to come back and reload. So you're right. It's probably a little bit more sustainable rather than a look on the YouTube doing a roller coaster up and down. It's more of like a slow build up. And you're right. It's almost like wow, he really hit with a splash last year instead of, his first season, which is usually not as great for a head coach. Ended up being awesome because of the personnel he managed to turn around. So we've seen the coaching pay dividends for some of these guys individually and shown how it's galvanized the team as a whole. We trust in Dennis. This is our trust the process season, but Mizzou's actually going to make the process work instead of what Philly does, which is still stink.
and rest assured, I mean, you can't really have a portal like you did this year or next year. You got to hit more than you did this year. But I think this year, the portal crop being a little weaker, in addition to not having all of your recruits in seasoned yet. Like, you have 3 recruit of your own high school recruits in. They're all freshmen. And quite frankly, they all probably are going to need more seasoning than guys coming in next year. Like, I think Honor Boateng will probably come in and be someone that contributes right away next year. I think the 3 freshmen that are on the team this year need a little more time. And it just kind of adds up to a bit of a downer year. It's not the biggest deal in the world, but I don't know. I wish I could skip this year and watch what the team is in a few years. Is basically
Yeah. It's hard because you have to, that's what you do in basketball. Is you overanalyze, every game, and it's a lot more broad than that. But that's not our job. Our job is, well, I guess maybe it is to try and see through that and see the bigger picture, because it is. I think it's obviously still an incredibly bright future for Dennis. My last point, when you talk about the guys coming in next year, I will agree. Payton Marshall is a grown ass man. That kid is that kid is a baby Shaq. I think is what you're gonna start hearing out of him.
Of course, Trent Burns. You never know. Maybe he
Trent Burns.
Step in and
it's our guy. Baby Wemby. They have Baby Wemby and Baby Shaq. We'll see.
There are 5 really good recruits. They're coming in. So
yeah, it's gonna be a bright future, but we'll see. I mean, and Dennis Gates was a pleasant surprise last year. Might not be as pleasant by season's end, but the way this team comes back in games, I still feel like we got a couple magic moments.
They'll be a tough out in conference play. No team is going to put them away easy.
No doubt. And we do need to have, when we have Kenny like in January, we should have a bigger conversation about where the SEC is, because I think it's really interesting where some of these teams are, as opposed to where a lot of people thought they would be at the start of the year in terms of underperforming. But we'll get to that later. That's a whole long convo in of it itself. Let's say, do you have any final things? Any final takeaways from this game?
We hit that.
I think we covered it. 93-87. Mizzou loses in KC. Illinois up next. We'll see how they can respond. And with that, we will segue over and do the Kennyless quick hits. Okay, quick hits time. We're Kennyless, so it is Payton's sports shorts this week. Payton, what you got for the sports shorts?
Milton, we mentioned them earlier. We're gonna go back to our junior year, the 2021-22 Mizzou basketball team.
Yes.
There are
I remember them fondly.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's a lot more than I thought.
Good. You didn't do very good research.
Cut this part out. Cut this part out. Cut this part out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, there's way too many. So can you name me? Can you name every single one of the players from that team that are still in college basketball? But that's like still pretty much all of them. So can you name me the one that had a game-winning block this weekend?
Yes, of course I can, Payton, because that is kind of like Norfleet. I won't call him a friend of the show because we haven't had him on, but like Norfleet, we're this guy's guys, and that's Ronnie DeGray. We're Ronnie DeGray guys. He made his debut with Wichita, right?
He did. He made his debut with Wichita. He hit one shot. He was in on the final play. He blocked away a shot at the rim to secure Wichita State's win over the Southern Illinois Salukis. Ronnie DeGray, welcome back. Glad to see he's landed on his feet, and he had a good game in his first game back. So good for Ronnie DeGray. Yeah, very happy for him. Yeah, like Yaya Keita, he's still at Oklahoma.
Yeah, can you read them, actually? I'm not cutting that out, by the way. That's all staying.
Yeah, that's
You're
fine.
not giving me extra work.
I know. I believe Amari Davis is out of eligibility. Anton Brookshire is still somewhere. I don't know exactly.
Did he stay at Iona? Wait, you give me the names. I'll research. You read.
Okay, Anton Brookshire. I know he's still in college basketball.
He's at Austin P. He was with the big Austin P. with Jordan Wilmore.
He went with that crazy
the Mizzou coalition.
Yeah, Sean Dewar Gordon. I believe he's no longer there.
He's also at Austin P. I think.
No, he was there. I think he left.
Sean Dewar Gordon is at Siena. Siena State, averaging 12.4 points per game. It's pretty good.
Ball dominant.
Okay.
Boogie Coleman.
Oh, Boogie Coleman's at Nebraska, of course.
Yeah. Caleb Brown, still at Mizzou. He's the last man standing from this team. Ronnie DeGray, obviously he is at Wichita. I don't know who this Brazel guy is. Jordan Wilmore.
Trayvon Brazel. Jordan Wilmore, I think, is also at Austin Peay, right?
He might have stayed. I don't know if they took him with them.
Yep, he is a governor.
Man,
he is a governor.
That is a shameless group up there. But yeah, there's the worst Mizzou team that we will hopefully ever see. That's where they all are.
Jordan Wilmore has appeared in one game against Western Kentucky. It was actually their last game on December 16th. He had 6 points and 6 rebounds and 4 fouls. So
nice.
It's back in the rotation. Next, best beats of the week. Best beats of the week, Kenny. Thank you, Kenny. I'm just kidding. His best beat of the week. Of course, Kenny's in New York. He was a guest. He was a guest on the Today Show, or a extra, excuse me, on our favorite sitcom. So maybe we'll put the rerun on the YouTube if it isn't copywritten. But Kenny wanted to do Clemson. He did the Clemson money line against Kentucky. They're minus 195 to beat the Wildcats in what bowl is that, Payton? I don't remember.
Gator Bowl, I believe, as I look it up.
Yeah, it is. Wait, I can't find it either. What? Oh, it is a Gator Bowl. You're right.
Taxslayer
Gator Bowl.
Okay, I figured it.
He wanted the money line because he said when he was at the Today Show, another extra was wearing a Clemson shirt. So he's picking.
Yeah, and in honor of Kenny, I have a joke here from our favorite sitcom. This one comes from Hoda. What kind of bug can tell time, Knowlton?
I was trying to get this one. I don't know. A minute fly? I don't know.
A minute fly. A cockroach, Knowlton. Not a damn minute fly. What the hell is that?
What's your best beat?
My best beat of the week. We're going.
You ever heard of the Louisville Minute Flies?
West Coast. We're going to Loyola, not the Greyhounds that Mizzou played. We're talking Loyola Marymount today. Loyola Marymount. They are 15.5-point favorites over the 0-10 Detroit Mercy. I think this is a lock. Give me Loyola Marymount. Detroit is now completely irrelevant because they can't give the coach can't give his son empty stats that mean absolutely nothing.
You're such a hater.
That Antoine Davis story was thing fun. Ever. It really was not fun. It was so lame. It was really lame. And
for those who might not know, a guy for Detroit Mercy last year was in his sixth season of eligibility. He was the coach's son. His name was Antoine Davis, and he almost broke the NCAA scoring record held by Pete Maravich. And it was awesome. And Payton is a hater about it.
Begging teams to get together to play in this one tournament. They couldn't get in the CBI. First of all, because
they were that bad.
We were not taking part in this charade. And then they tried to assemble this. I don't even remember the name of it.
They tried to make their own Fire Fest tournament.
I don't think it was their own. It was one that hadn't run in 3 years or something, and nobody wanted to do it. Antoine Davis did not. He came up 8 points short or something, which is pretty hilarious because Pistol Pete did it in half the time. So that's what Detroit gets, and Loyola's going to beat them by 16.
Pistol Pete played in basketball is fake, and you're a hater. My best beat of the week, I'm also doing it in honor of Kenny. I'm going to the Boca Raton Bowl. We've got South Florida. They're actually the home team. I wrote it down wrong on the graphic. They're playing Syracuse. I'm taking the Qs in honor of Kenny because he's a Syracuse fan. They are favored by 2. I'm taking them to cover. Jerry Bohannon, former future Missouri Tiger, is gone.
He wasn't starting anyways.
He wasn't starting anyways. That's the only player on South Florida I know. Go Qs.
Syracuse. Kenny's not actually a fan, but he has family that lives around there. He is they're his second college. So yeah, they got Kyle McCord, Fran Brown putting together a squad up.
Yeah, they did. Oh my God.
So good for them. No, he can't play.
I know.
30 birds of the weekend.
Yeah, you read Kenny's.
Kenny's, who he definitely picked this one, is Mitch Trubisky. You may be wondering how Mitch Trubisky is a dirty bird. It's because I said he is. And he played the Eagles in a playoff game. But Mitch Trubisky, he played horrible once again for the Steelers. The Steelers lost. Mike Tomlin is trying to keep his never having a losing season streak alive. So they're going to Mason Rudolph. All roads lead back to Rudolph. Mason Rudolph will be the starting quarterback for the Steelers this week. Mitch Trubisky has been benched for the second time in his career. Rest in peace, Mitch Trubisky's career. My dirty bird of the weekend.
Wait, I have a question. A quick prediction. Steelers face the Bengals, Seahawks, and Ravens to close the season. Do they finish above 500?
Oh, man. What was the first one?
Bengals, Seahawks, and Ravens.
I'm going to say no. I don't think they'll beat two of those teams. I think they'll win one. It would be funny if they are 8-8 going into a game against the likely 1 seed Ravens.
Because they might not try. They might
may not try, and that's how they wind up getting it. But it'd be even funnier if they lost. And that's how
it's like a backdoor cover.
Yeah,
I agree. I don't think they get it.
I don't think they'll get it.
I want them to lose to the Seahawks. But what's your dirty bird?
My dirty bird of the week, boy, I have just beaten the crap out of the poor Falcons and Desmond Ridder, but they just keep earning their way onto this list. The Carolina Panthers, who entered the game 1-12 against the Falcons yesterday. If you didn't see the photo of the Panthers Stadium at halftime, look it up. It's unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it.
Weren't the tickets for it were like 50 cents? I saw.
I don't even know. Like they couldn't.
They were selling tickets. They were selling tickets for like under $1.
Yeah, it was really depressing. And the Panthers scored 9 points. The 1-12 Panthers scored 9 points. Bryce Young has not thrown a touchdown in a month, and they beat the Falcons. They beat the Falcons 9-7. Desmond Ridder is horrible, and now he might get benched again. Arthur Smith, who is just terrible. I mean, good God, it's all bad in Atlanta. They're being run into the ground. They drafted a tight end 4th overall and don't throw to him. They drafted a wide receiver 8 overall, and he either alternates between having 200-yard games or 0-catch games. They drafted Bijan Robinson only to give Algier more touches than him. It's all bad in Atlanta. The Falcons suck. They're horrible. It's unbelievable they've won 6 games. They're embarrassing to watch. Desmond Ridder is probably going to be benched for Taylor Heineke, and I don't think it's going to save them. It's unbelievable this team has won 6 games. It really makes me quite angry this team has won 6 games. They're horrible. The Falcons suck. Desmond Ridder is not an NFL starter. They lost to the Panthers in front of 14 people. They're so bad. So
Mizzou
bad.
connection. Steve Wiltfong, former coach. Not Steve Wiltfong. Steve Wilkes, former future coach of the Panthers.
He's not there anymore, obviously, but gee, what an awful, awful football team they have in the ATL. Jesus.
I will offer some vindication. In the quarterfinal round of a fantasy league I'm in, I defeated my opponent 91-82. My quarterback, Desmond Ridder, 11 points.
Wow, 91
I still won my game.
91 points is what you got out of that team.
I am projected actually to get 108. I have Devonta Smith, who still has to play in the Monday night game, but I have 91, and I'm going to win with Desmond Ridder under center. My dirty bird, I'm going back to the Philadelphia Eagles and another quarterback. Speaking of the Monday night game, I'm giving my dirty bird of the week to Jalen Hurts. He's sick, and he's currently questionable for the Eagles Monday night game against the Seahawks. I think if you were, a real MVP caliber player, wanted to win your team's Super Bowl, Michael Jordan had a flu game. You should be playing through your illness, Jalen Hurts.
It was a bad pizza game.
Yeah, it was a bad pizza. It was a bad pizza game. Some are saying Seahawks fans who the Eagles are playing on Monday night poisoned something for Jalen Hurts. Some are saying for legal reasons that's not true. That's a fake report. But Jalen Hurts is sick, and we'll see if he plays on Monday night. Maybe that'll be more breaking news that we get. I'm hoping he does. Please don't play Jalen Hurts. Seahawks need this game. Please don't play. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is my dirty bird. Should we do fraud rankings?
I think it's time.
Hold on. I didn't have it open. Kenny's not here. This feels so fake, but we're going to switch.
What is it?
What time is it? It's fraud time.
Time for the fraud rankings. Up first on our fraud rankings list, we have the Green Bay Packers, Jack Knowlton. They just lost to Baker Mayfield. Baker, he's dancing on him. He's dancing on him, Knowlton. He's dancing on him. He's dancing
Remember
on
what
him.
he did against Kansas? He did that to the Packers.
Oh, yeah. Oh, he had a perfect passer rating. How do you let 2023 Baker Mayfield pass for that many yards?
Green Bay
passer rating?
Frauds. Jordan Dudd. At number 4, we have the Jets. Jets. Frauds.
Frauds.
Facing off against the Miami Dolphins. They lost 30-0.
Oh.
They got shut out by the Dolphins. Trevor Siemian, more like Simi Fraud, 14 for 26, 2 picks. The Dolphins go marching. Jets. Fraud.
At number 3, we got I'm Tommy Cut Fraud.
Oh,
New York
fraud.
The fraud giant. It all came crashing down on good old Tommy DeVito. How bad are the Packers? They let Tommy DeCutlets
it's a bonus Packers fraud.
Week. Yeah, extra fraud.
A
Fraud.
G
Hold the cutlets. Tommy Cutlets is Tommy Fraudlets.
24-6 to the Saints. What happened, Tommy?
Uh-oh.
I still believe in my Italian king. Number 2. Hold up. We them frauds. The Cowboys. More like the Dallas can't win on the road, boys. 31-10. They lost to the Bills. Buffalo is 8-6.
Buffalo needed it. Buffalo needed it. I beat them by 2, and they won by 21.
The Cowboys are frauds. Dak Prescott, not my MVP.
58 yards, Dak. Right when you start getting MVP hype? Come on, you fraud.
And for Kenny, stay with me, Payton. At number 1, 1, 2, 3, the Titans.
Oilers.
They wore the uniforms.
Third string.
How could you do that? They wore the uniforms. They lost.
Tag.
Let Houston wear those Oilers uniforms. Congrats to the Texans. One without Stroud. That one was for you, Kenny. Titans. Frauds.
Will fraud this.
Look at that, right when the song ended.
Right at the end.
Timing. Good fraud rankings. Let's finish the show with the poll of the week. I'll let you read the ratio. I'm going to do the Twitter poll of the weekend. This isn't a ratio, but we had a poll. Saturday Down South, another podcast. Maybe we shouldn't actually be promoting them because you should listen to our show. No, Saturday Down South is good. They tweeted a poll. This is the poll of the week. Which team was better this season, Mizzou or Ole Miss? After 7,220 votes, 79% of the voters voted for Mizzou. Only 20 voted for Ole Miss. So clearly the fans have spoken. This just goes back to Ole Miss crying about Mizzou getting a New Year's Six bowl over them. And then both teams got a New Year's Six bowl. So everyone could just be happy. So this was a ridiculous debate. But Mizzou, obviously, I think objectively still had a better season than Ole Miss. And the poll proves it. I mean, numbers don't lie. Payton.
This is the poll to end all polls.
Yeah.
The week is a crazy one. We got Richard Mendenhall, of course, the famous Steelers running back, was unhappy this morning. He said, "I'm sick of average white guys commenting on football. Y'all not even good at football. Can we please replace the Pro Bowl with an all black versus all white bowl so these cats can stop trying to teach me who's good at football? I'm better than your GOAT." This one was getting pretty ratioed, as you can expect. 3.6K replies, 2K retweets / quote tweets, and only 1.2 thousand likes. And Minkaberg Steelers win 109 on Twitter replied, "I'm sick of average running backs fumbling the ball away in the most important game they'll ever play. But I guess we both won't get what we want, Richard." This, of course, references that famous fumble that Mendenhall had against the Packers in the Super Bowl. That changed the whole game on a dime. The Steelers were kind of controlling it. That flipped the momentum. Minka Berg got 113,000 retweets, 17 quotes, and 6,000 likes.
So, wait, he did not get 113,000 retweets. He just got
113 retweets and 6,000 likes. So yeah, that's a 5-to-1 ratio there. So good.
Oh,
good
nice. You did the deep down math to it. Yeah, that's so harsh. That's coming from a Steelers account too. And that's such an old, like, that game happened so long ago. Yeah. Interesting take there from Richard, and yeah, his own team accounts ratioing him. Okay. We'll end the show. Good show, Payton. You have any other, I guess you told your Today Show joke already, so we can't really end with that. We'll be back on Friday. We'll preview the Illinois game. We'll have, I'm sure, some more football news to dive into as well. I think Benny might be back on to talk some basketball. But yeah, until then.
Got another very special guest lined up.
Yeah, we have another. No, that's a good tease. We can start teasing it now.
Yeah.
We're gonna have we're having him on this week. We're gonna run, obviously, next week. We'll have the preview for the bowl game, and we have a very special guest for that lined up. So definitely keep an eye on the channel. Going back to the intro, subscribe to the YouTube, and all that stuff. And drop a comment. We like responding to comments. They're fun. But yeah, we appreciate. Especially if they're mean. We'll start doing AI. We'll put an AI bot down there and just have it make up fake responses. I don't know. But yeah, subscribe, like the video, do all that stuff. We appreciate everyone who listens. Everyone have a fun and safe week. This has been The Unwritten Rule, presented by Bet Online. Can't forget our good friends over at Bet Online. We'll see you guys on Friday.